Loneliness and Guilt, Chapter 1, The Fool. It was a windy afternoon in the Savannah apartment of Hialeah. It was mid-January 2004. Last year had come and gone in the blink of an eye. The psychic Irina counted her savings before answering the door. She was tired, so very tired. She never imagined having to work so much in her old age. She looked at her own reflection in the crystal ball. The reflective surface seemed to enlarge her wrinkles. Her only consolation was the fact that her blue eyes didn't require glasses, yet. Although she focused her eyes for a prolonged period of time, it gave her a headache. The Jew standing outside was grateful with a thin ballerino body. His face was awfully pretty, too pretty for a man, and after dying he would be mistaken for a woman. His expressive black eyes had a feral quality to them, almost as if he was expecting to get ambushed at any moment. He was called Jeremy, and in his hand he was carrying his pet Sphinx cat Tybalt. "How do you become a psychic?" asked Jeremy. "You don't become one, you are born one," said Irina. "I see. And how do you know that you are one?" asked Jeremy. He interrogated Irina about everything pertaining to her craft. The last question he asked was, "How do you explain your irregular earnings to the tax man?" Irina narrowed her eyes. This was a true question that Jeremy wanted. She said, "I file an 808 form, and even if you get paid cash, it is important to keep a logbook with your client's information. The taxman carefully monitors the little people's expenditures, though as long as you do not make much with your psychic readings, you won't have to worry about taxes." Jeremy left after getting this pertinent information. Irina smiled thinly. She didn't need a crystal ball to know that Jeremy's latest quick money-making scheme was not going to work. Her next client was her regular Karina. She was a 24-year-old pediatrician with a petite build, a well-toned body, raven hair, expressive hazel eyes, honey-colored skin, and curly brown hair. Following behind her was her best friend Kain. He was a handsome devil, and at the age of 23, police officer Kain was built like Michelangelo's David. His face had even features with full feminine lips, and his sad gray eyes contrasted with his short raven hair. Both were sporting their Sunday best, and Karina was in a skimpy red dress with a leather jacket. Meanwhile, Kain was dressed in a black leather jeans and a black turtleneck. He didn't normally wear turtlenecks, however there was something that he was meaning to hide from prying eyes. Last Christmas, less than a month ago, he had gotten bitten by a vampire. Not a real vampire, mind you, just a pervert with a vampire fetish. The bite from the blunt teeth had left a nasty purple bruise, and it was a constant reminder of what he had endured. Since he wasn't in the mood to talk about it, Kain had covered up the vampire bite with a turtleneck, and from time to time he would pull out the turtleneck or rearrange it. He found it quite uncomfortable, although the alternative was dealing with strangers asking about the bite. Tonight he was going to go clubbing with Karina, and he wanted to stay home hiding under a blanket. However, Karina wasn't going to allow him to keep feeding his depression. Karina gave a reassuring squeeze to Kain's hand, and she then turned to look at the psychic. "Can you tell Kain what he can expect for this year?" asked Karina. "This year, you say," said Karina, frowning. "That's too broad. I saw in the news a Cuban psychic giving La Letra del Año, and I thought that maybe you could make one for Kain," said Karina. "That Yoruba ritual is too broad. It isn't designed for personal recommendation. Rather, it tells the entire community what big changes they can expect in their life," explained Irina. "Although it has advices that an individual can choose to heed or ignore." "Tell us those recommendations," insisted Karina. "You need to avoid alcohol, drugs," started saying Irina. "Aw, man, so it has to be a dry year this year," said Karina, resting her head on her hands. "And you're not making this up, are you? I can show you the website. Every year the head Yoruba psychic in Cuba does La Letra del Año," said Irina, booting up her granddaughter's laptop. Karina and Kain read to the readings, and Kain laughed when he read, "So this year women shouldn't see their bodies." Irina showed their friends other forms of allegory, and they eventually decided to try the Quashin. Kain went to the shrine to pray to his dead grandfather, and whenever he was grieving, he always looked to his dead grandfather for guidance. He was given a wooden cylinder with sticks. This is the most important part. Think of your question while you shake the sticks. It has to be one question only, and if you change your question at the last moment, you're going to get a false reading, instructed Irina. And don't ask stupid things, cause you will get a stupid answer. What do you mean, asked Karina? The sticks are accurate, but they do lie, explained Irina. For now, let's focus on the question. Empty your mind of doubt. And what is the thing you long to know about your future? Kain shook the sticks while focusing on his question. Am I going to find someone who will be my lifelong companion? And as of lately, he was feeling rather lonely. And Karina now spent more time with her boyfriend Bruno, and everyone was too busy to give him the attention he desperately needed. And whenever he was by himself, he would remember the assault, and this would fill him with the existential dread. And he couldn't be alone. He didn't want to be alone with his drama, nor was he too keen in processing it. The stick that fell was the number 14. Eranina tossed some moon blocks to verify the validity of the reading, and after tossing the blocks several times, she came to the conclusion that the couching sticks were not in a talking mood, and she gave Kain a fortune cookie as a consolation. Your soulmate will appear in your life when you least expect it, read Kain. All right, I like those odds, said Karina, nodding with approval. The friends paid Irina for her time, and during the car ride, Karina chatted with Kain while Kain just listened, and she tended to run her mouth whenever she was in over-conversation mode or nervous. She grew silent when she realized that her friend wasn't listening. She blamed herself for what happened, and why didn't she invite him to her family vacation? And had he left the country with her, he wouldn't have found himself alone and easy picking for the wannabe vampire. And she thought of the attacker. For more than 6 months, the bastard had been a background character. Well, not just for 6 months, for 4 books. Whatever possessed him to attack Kain, whatever possessed him to engage in vampirism of all things. I guess the quiet ones are the most dangerous, said Karina during a red light. Are you still thinking about him? Asked Kain, and he placed his hand to his neck nervously. Was the bite all he did? Asked Karina, looking at her friend's neck. Karina, just take me home. I'm not in the mood to quench your curiosity, said Kain, lowering his gaze. He opened his cell phone to read his messages, and he found when he saw that his grandma and his father were not home, and if Karina took him home, he was going to be in the house by himself. The line turned green. Karina tentatively asked, do you still want to go home? No, said Kain. Let's continue then, said Karina before pressing the accelerator. Wait, stop, yelled Kain, and Karina stopped the car by pressing her feet hard on the brakes. The car behind them started honking, and Kain looked left and right, and with his permission, Karina was finally able to get past this light. The ride continued at a leisurely pace, and after 10 minutes they arrived at Hoy Como Ayer, or Today Like Yesterday. It's a club. It was a live music venue. Karina parked the car and she opened the door for Kain, and Kain sighed wearily when he recognized Oberon's car. Oberon had become distant again, and he had taken care of Kain after the attack, and he had been his nurse, his feeder, the shoulder he would cry upon, and after waking up from his nightmare, and if he called Oberon would respond via text, and just blunt responses enough to give signs of life. It wasn't the first time that Oberon would become distant, and Kain just needed to wait patiently for his friend to resurface, and he was thankful that the wait wasn't too long this time. Karina and Kain entered the venue, and the walls and roof were decorated by mirrors, and the parts without mirror had warm honey-colored wood, and they found their table near the front. Oberon waved when he saw Kain approaching, and he would have ran to greet his friend, but Natasha had convinced him to play things casually. For the last couple of months, he had been nursing a secret desire for Kain, and since he valued his friendship with Kain above everything else, he would distance himself whenever he felt that he was getting a little too lustful. He didn't want to do something impulsive that would ruin everything. Oberon was 25 years old, and he was athletic with strong, well-done legs and a big caboose. His round face had a bit of a childish charm to it, due to his elegant nose and large, expressive brown eyes with long eyelashes. Kain smiled slightly when he noticed that Oberon was sporting his natural brown hair, And his haircut was also more mundane, almost military-like. "Did you join the army, Oberon?" asked Kain. "No," asked Oberon, confused. "Why do you ask?" "And what's with the Sergeant Pepper haircut?" asked Kain before gesturing towards the boring haircut. "Oh, Dad, I thought I would try something more normal," said Oberon. Did you lose your job because of me?" asked Kain, guessing the problem. "No, I didn't lose my job. I left it," lied Oberon, forcing a fake smile. He had indeed been fired for taking extra vacation days to look after his ailing friend, and he didn't want Kain to feel responsible, so he had been scrambling to find a new employment before facing his friend, and he now worked as a PTM, para toda mierda, for Eugenia. That means, the guy you call to do literally everything. It was a temporary job, something to keep the lights on in his house while he looked for a real job. Eugenia too blamed herself for the attack. After all, it had been her limo driver who had attacked her ex-boyfriend Kain, and it had even happened in her house. And the only way she could seem to make it up was to give a pity job to Oberon, the man who had taken care of Kain while everyone else had been on vacation. It was not as if they ignored the situation, rather Kain had chosen to keep the attack a secret for as long as possible. He didn't want to ruin their vacations. At the time, Kain didn't want to deal with the problem, and he knew that if they found out, they would ask questions, and only Oberon had been tactful enough not to ask Kain about what happened the night he had gotten attacked by that lunatic. "Come sit with us, Kain," said Mally, pointing at a chair that was beside him, and he was a handsome, raven-haired, green-eyed tan gentleman, and the former baseball player still maintained his athletic body. The friends turned their attention to the stage, and there was a live band, and they talked about everything and nothing, and they were later joined by a new face, Officer Lola. She had been invited to be Kain's female date, and Mally fancied that all of Kain's problems would get solved if he rolled around the hay, and this was Mally's usual go-to solution whenever he wanted to suppress a childhood trauma. A quick endorphin boost, and Kain would be back to his old self, or so he fancied. Kain was a police officer like Lola, and she was also not bad to look at. She had a short chestnut-colored hair, raven eyes, a round face, body lips, and a petite athletic figure. She had also been the arresting officer who had saved Kain from his attacker, and Karina fancied that Kain had to like Lola, seeing as though she was his savior. Lola was there to see how her fellow colleague was doing, and the prosecutor also needed her to convince Kain to testify in open court. As a victim, he had no other choice but to talk about the incident in order to ensure a conviction, and they only had the testimony he made on the night he got attacked. Lola looked at Kain over the top, and he seemed healthy enough, though the smile he wore on his face was obviously a fake one. "Are you working again?" asked Lola. "Just a simple desk job. My uncle doesn't want me to go on patrol just yet," said Kain, sighing before nursing his Cuba Libre drink. "You don't mind," asked Lola. "What I mind or don't mind is irrelevant. Uncle Gen is my boss. His will is my command," said Kain. "Perhaps we could have you transferred into my department. His protectionism is simply holding you back, and you will never become a detective if he keeps coddling you," mused Lola. "I don't really care about making it far as a cop, and I'm making enough to pay the bills, and I have health insurance and pension. What more can a person want out of their job?" asked Kain. "You disappoint me," said Lola, resting her hand on her fist. "You sound just like my grandpa," said Kain. "He too was disappointed in me. But at the end of the day, regardless of how far you make it in life, it all turns to ash. You can't take any of that with you." "Lighten up, Kain," barked Karina, and she took his hand before saying, "Let's go dance a little." "But nobody's dancing," commented Kain. "Good, that leaves plenty of room for us to strut our moves," said Karina, while pulling at his arm. The friends danced like old sake, and Lola watched Kain dancing about with mild amusement, and her eyes lingered on his hips, and she fancied that a guy that could move his hips like that was probably good in the bedchambers, and Lola drank a little more, and the more she drank, the more she grew to desire Kain, and just when she had finished building up her courage, she got a call from the babysitter. "I am sorry," said Lola, "I need to go home. The baby has been crying for an hour." "You have a baby?" asked Karina, surprised. "And why didn't you say so earlier?" "Men tend to scram whenever they hear that I have a toddler waiting for me at home. I love the little gremlin to death, but they are nice," said Lola, rubbing her temple. Say no more, said Oberon, and he brought out his business card before saying, and next time you have some free time, give me a call and I will show you a good time. Thank you, and I will take your indecent proposal into consideration, said Lola, adding Oberon's contact information into her cell phone. And Karina frowned when she saw that Oberon had intercepted the woman they thought they had brought for Kain, and Malik nudged at Kain, and Kain looked at his friends with a confused, distressed look. And Karina gestured with her hands, and he whispered to Malik, Lola already has my number. Is that so? Said Malik, and he turned to Lola to say, as cute as Oberon might be, may I remind you that Kain is available? Oh, I wasn't aware that you wanted her, said Oberon apologetically, and you should have spoken out sooner. I don't know, said Kain. I get it. You don't want anything serious with a woman who is somebody's mother. Well, you are in luck because I'm not looking for anything serious either, said Lola before departing. Kain looked at the time and it wasn't midnight yet, and thankfully he had work tomorrow, and Kain said, I'm going to check out early. Even if it's a desk job, I'm still required to show up on time. The night is still young, said Malik. Stay a little longer, insisted Karina. If you want to continue watching the show, I can take Kain home, offered Oberon. Nah, I gotta go check out early, said Karina, puffing angrily. And it is the height of the flu season, so the clinic is going to be pretty busy. At the mention of the flu, Malik sneezed, and Karina and Kain held their breath in, and they closed their eyes, and Oberon laughing asked, and what the hell are you two doing? Something stupid, said Karina, and when I was small, my father told me that the flu gets in through your mouth and nose. So whenever somebody sneezes, I am of the habit of closing my eyes and holding in my breath. I get why you do it, but you, Kain? Asked Oberon. I was just trying to be silly, said Kain, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. And he started doing it because he saw Karina doing it, said Malik. And you do not know about this Kain, but he's a bit of a tool, and he would do anything to have someone's undivided attention. That is only because he wasn't breastfed, joked Karina. Me neither, and I turned out alright, joked Oberon. Are you done? Asked Kain, folding his arm. Almost, said Malik. Let's go home, Oberon, said Kain, starting to depart. Wait, Kain, said Malik, pulling Kain by the elbow. I haven't finished teasing you. Malik, I'm not in the mood, said Kain, laughing. Karina danced with him a little longer, insisted Malik. Fine, but only since you insisted, said Karina, taking Kain's hand. One more round, but the moment you choose to sit down, I will depart, said Kain. Is this an endurance challenge, Kain? 'Cause I can go all night if given the right motivation, said Karina. Oberon returned to his seat, and he watched with bored amusement Karina and Kain getting into a dance duel. And after dancing non-stop for 2 hours, Karina's heel broke and she twisted her ankle, and she had no other choice but to go limp home. Kain drove Karina home with Oberon following behind, and he carried the petite maiden to her bedroom, and her boyfriend Oberon awoke when he heard the door opening, and his green eyes glistened in the darkness while he tried to make sense of what was occurring. And since he was still half asleep, he lay back down again when he saw that it was just Kain and Karina. Alright? That's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye. God bless.